Hello, my name is Charmaine Espinosa, and I'm a postdoctoral research associate working with Dr. Hans H. Stein. Today, I'll be presenting the results of the experiment we have conducted to determine the effect of feed sweetener and feed flavor on growth performance of weanling pigs. Weaning is one of the most stressful periods that results in behavioral, immunological, and intestinal changes. At weaning, the young pig is exposed to a myriad of stressors which cause reduction in growth performance. Such factors include removal of the piglet from the sow and litter mates, transportation stress, and increased exposure to pathogens. More often than not, weaning pigs are susceptible to infections, diseases, and villus atrophy in the gut, which indicates that the intestinal barrier function is disturbed after weaning. One major factor contributing in post weaning stress is the abrupt transition in the diet, where pigs have to cope with abrupt withdrawal of sow milk, and this often causes diarrhea due to lack of endogenous enzymes being produced by weaning pigs. This graph shows the voluntary metabolizable energy intake of pigs during the first 3 weeks post weaning. And what this graph clearly indicates is that the transition to eating solid feed usually results in a critical period of underfeeding during which piglets need to eat and adapt to digest the solid feed. Here we can observe a significant drop at metabolizable energy intake during the weaning period and therefore are unfamiliar with the weaning diet. As a consequence, this has both immediate and marked effects on growth, immune response, and energy metabolism of weanling pigs. Because of this, the continuous search for multiple and combined strategies to increase feed consumption and growth performance after weaning is always a practical interest to the swine industry. One of these is crib feeding. In this practice, we introduce dry, solid diets to piglets during lactation period as early as day 7 to day 18 from birth to ease the transition from milk during the suckling period to solid feed after weaning. Crib feed consumption is also thought to help initiate and promote gut and digestive enzyme development that may help pigs to utilize alternative food sources once milk is removed. Another strategy that may help improve feed intake of pigs is to supplement diets with sensory feed additives that can change or improve the organoleptic properties of the feed or visual characteristics of food derived from animals. Examples of these sensory feed additives include feed flavor and feed sweetener. The palatability of a feed is positively correlated to the taste experienced by animals. The sense of smell is often experienced prior to consumption, and therefore, aroma is important as an initial attractant to feed. Feed flavors are feed additives that attempt to enhance the taste and smell of feed to stimulate feed intake. Due to its aroma, feed flavors may also mask feed ingredients included in the diet that are unpleasant to pigs. Previous research indicate that animals of different species and different ages prefer different flavors, and in growing pigs, both milky vanilla and fruit flavor could potentially enhance feed intake. Another sensory feed additive that can be included in diets for weaning pigs to improve feed palatability and stimulate voluntary intake is feed sweetener. Feed sweeteners are commonly classified as non-nutritive sweeteners or high-intensity sweeteners that mimics the effect of naturally occurring sugar when it comes to taste, and these high-intensity sweeteners are known to be at least 30 to 13,000 times sweeter in taste compared with sucrose. Some examples of high-intensity sweeteners include asulfame potassium, advantame, aspartame, neotame, saccharin, and sucralose. Of all these high-intensity sweeteners, saccharin was the first one to be marketed. It is about 300 to 500 times sweeter than sucrose and is excreted through urine intake, providing no dietary energy. Its high stability at high temperatures and low pH makes it an ideal sweetener to be used in pig diets. With that in mind, we conducted an experiment to test the hypothesis that supplementation of feed flavor at 500 milligrams per kilogram, as well as feed sweetener at 150 milligrams per kilogram, improve growth performance and also reduce the occurrence of diarrhea in pigs. In this experiment, feed flavor is a milky vanilla flavor, and saccharin was the active ingredient for the feed sweetener. A total of 128 weanling pigs at approximately 6 kg initial body weight was used and were allotted to 4 diets with 8 replicate pens per treatment for a total of 32 pens in the experiment. The 4 diets consisted of a control diet that was formulated based on corn and soybean meal, whereas the 3 remaining diets were formulated by adding feed flavor, feed sweetener, or the combination of feed flavor and feed sweetener to the control diet. Experimental diets were fed for 42 days, and a 3-phase feeding program was used with day 1 to 7 as phase 1, day 8 to 21 as phase 2, and day 22 to 42 as phase 3. Individual pig weights and daily feed allotments were recorded to be able to summarize growth performance data. Fecal scores were assessed visually per pen every other day using a score from 1 to 5. Frequency of diarrhea was also calculated by totaling the number of pen days with fecal scores greater than 3 divided by the total number of pen days multiplied by 100. Moving on with the results, these graphs shows the overall average daily feed intake of pigs from day 1 to day 42. FF here represents feed flavor, whereas FS represents feed sweetener, and this setup will be the same in the following slides. Here we can observe that supplementation of feed flavor did not significantly improve feed intake of pigs. However, feed sweetener at 150 milligrams per kilogram in weanling diets resulted in an increased feed intake of pigs by approximately 50 grams compared with pigs fed the controlled diet. Due to increased feed intake, we also observe a tendency for a greater average daily gain in pigs fed diets containing feed sweetener compared with the control diet. And the observed increase in feed intake and average daily gain subsequently resulted in a greater final body weight in pigs fed the feed sweetener diet compared with pigs fed the control diet. These results suggest that supplementation of feed sweetener was able to improve voluntary energy intake and therefore growth performance of weanling pigs. In the previous slides, we have demonstrated the beneficial effect of supplementing feed sweetener in weanling diets. And what this slide indicates is that supplementation of feed flavor to diets appears to reduce the incidence of diarrhea in weanling pigs. And based on the results of this research, we confirm that inclusion of feed sweetener at 150 milligrams per kilogram to diets improved growth performance of pigs, whereas feed flavor supplementation at 500 milligrams per kilogram reduced the incidence of diarrhea in pigs. These improvements may be a result of the positive effect of feed sweetener and feed flavor mainly on feed intake, but also may be a result of improved immune response. Therefore, further research is needed to determine the exact and detailed mechanism of sensory feed additives in exerting positive effects on pig performance. We would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge DDC Nutrition and Dadak Biotech Corporation for their inputs and financial support. Thank you for your interest in this presentation, and if you would like to know more about other research topics in nutrition, you can visit our website at nutrition.ansai.illinois.edu.